We wait for the light, but behold, obscurity for brightness. We walk in darkness. We grope for the wall like the blind, and we grope as if we had no eyes. We stumble at noonday as in the night. We are in desolate places as dead men. We roar all like bears and mourn so like doves. We look for judgments, but there is none for salvation. But it is far off from us, for our transgressions are multiplied before thee, and our sins testify against us, for our transgressions are with us. And as for our... Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're having a little technical problems with our satellite connection this morning, but it seems like things have cleared up for some unknown reason. But we're continuing today in the book of James, chapter 4, the very end. We kind of left off. I apologize if some people haven't gotten to listen to the last study. That was part 10. It's up there, but they're having trouble accessing it. I'm going to probably upload the recorded version. Well, anyways, we will touch on some of the things we touched on last time, because we are going to touch at the end of James 4 before we go into 5. We are going into 5 today, and so when we come to the end of 4 in the reading, we will just continue to read into 5. So let's begin. From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your lusts that war in your members? You lust and you have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you have not, because you ask not. You ask and you receive not, because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lusts. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is the enmity with God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Do you think that the Scripture saith in vain, the Spirit that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy? But he giveth more grace, whereby he saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted, and mourn, and weep. Hold on a second. Let your laughter be turned into mourning, and your joy into heaviness. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother, and judgeth his brother, speaketh evil of the law, and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver, who is able to save and to destroy. Who art thou that judgest another? Go to now, ye that say, today or tomorrow we will go into such a city, and continue there a year, and buy and sell, and get gain. Whereas ye know not what it shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor, that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth it away. For that ye ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that. But now you rejoice in your boastings. All such rejoicing is evil. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. And we'll continue here. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl, for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. And ye shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is kept of you back by fraud, and which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. That's the Lord of hosts. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. Be ye also patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. Take my brethren the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Lord, for an example of suffering affliction, and of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, and your nay be nay, lest ye fall into condemnation. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one to another, that ye may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain. And it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his ways shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. And that's the end of 5. I thought there was a 6. Isn't there a 6? James? Gosh, I'm confused. Didn't feel like the end of the book, but it is. Yeah, that's the end of it. Did I grab all the verses? Yeah, I did. Okay, now before we get to a lot of that stuff in 5, and there's a lot that we're going to probably spend all week on it. I honestly didn't feel like I wanted to leave chapter 4 yet. And then some of these subjects are difficult. I think they are. The one about judgment, we talked about, I feel like we covered it pretty well, about as well as I can. As I thought about it, though, I remember this morning I was just reading it over again. I'm like, speak not evil. I'm like, do we even cover that word is probably blasphemy? Like blaspheme? Speak evil. That's what blasphemy is. And just to confirm that, which I'm almost certain of, I don't remember if we covered it, but I'm pretty sure you just want to see speak, because that's what blasphemy is speaking evil of someone. And so it has a certain sort of, like, testifying to the truth. Like, he punched me in the face. That is not blasphemy. You know what I mean? Testifying to something that happened, that's not when I hide their ads. That's not anything against Bible Hub. Why should the advertisers get more advertising? So you should go to Bible Hub and then view the ads independently. You should follow along. That's for them. So for warning against pride, and these titles, I never, remember, these aren't part of your Bible either. These little headings that come, though they can be useful. So speak not evil. Let's see, speak evil. Oh no, it's not blasphemo. Katalaleo, to speak against, to speak evil of or against. It's not blaspheme. Interesting. So that's not. I'm glad I checked that. Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't say it was that either. It's a similar word. It's not blaspheme. Katalaleo. Laleo is to, like, another word for talk in Greek. Pheme is a kind of thing. Kata laleo. Laleo is another one, another root word. It's like to prattle on. So it's not the kind of, it's like more like to chatter than to talk. If we wanted to use the word to talk, we would have a different word. Laleo is something for, like, oh, they're laleoing on all day. To prattle on. From someone's reputation by malice. I'm sorry. I'm reading from the definition. I forgot it wasn't fully on the screen. properly to speak down in a hostile, deriding way, to mock, revile, distracting from someone's reputation by malice. Sometimes when it is talked about blaspheming a person. From katalalos, to be a traducer, which is also diabolos, what they also say is they translate into English as just one more time on this, because it's an important issue. It comes up. Christians have a difficult thing where we are told not to judge, not to be judgmental, to be forgiving, to show mercy, and to do all those things, but also told at the same time that there are lines. Like Paul, like I said, I've heard of fornication, but not this kind of fornication, such as would not be named among the Gentiles, that a man should have his father's wife. He was like, I've already judged it without even being there, he said. He didn't need any more information, because if true, there's no discussion, there's no evil speaking. This is just something that you did. You know what I mean? But it's not the same when people just judge people. People, I know I get judgment from people. I've had people say to me, Paul, I can tell you're not of God because on your website, oraclesofgod.org, the O or the G in God is not capitalized. They mean in my URL. Like the part of the web, the part in your browser up here where it says, like here it says Bible Hub and it's all lowercase because there are no uppercase allowed. I've had people speak evil of me for that. Accuse me of some being in league with the devil. I'm in league with the devil because I put my hands up the wrong way. Or maybe I sing music people don't. I'm just the sort of person Christians judge, quite frankly. I worry about my own judgment all the time because there are people in my life. I have at times kicked people out of my life. And I consider, all right, did I do right or wrong? You know what I mean? And it's something to consider because obviously we are cautioned about judgment. But on the other hand, we can't, Jesus said, judge not after the outward appearance, but judge righteous judgment. And respect not persons. There's confuse withholding of judgment against people, especially brethren, and that's the subject here. We can't confuse that with what is essentially cowardice and not being willing to step up and say right is right and wrong is wrong. You know what I mean? That you cannot say, oh, I don't want to say what the truth is because it would point out the evil that my brother's doing. It's like then Jesus had no right to deliver Matthew chapter 23. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. How dare anybody judge anybody? I mean, Jesus himself exemplified when the woman in adultery was brought to him and he refused to stone her. Now that was not condemn. He said, I do not condemn you. There was no question of judging her. She never disputed anything of, as far as it's not, I remember people suggesting, oh, she wasn't really guilty. It's like, well, that ruins the whole thing. The whole point is she is guilty. She was guilty. And people will bring up, well, where's the man? And he was guilty too. Well, yeah, if she was married and there was a man involved, he also should be stoned technically under the law. But if she was just a woman sleeping with a married man, I don't know if there was a lot of leeway on the male side of things when it came to adultery in old ancient societies. There's a lot of leniency, as far as like men tend to excuse each other. They don't send, oh, John, he's just seeing the prostitute like we all do. That's why he that is without saying, maybe she was a prostitute and they'd all seen her before. That's how they knew. I don't know. Whatever. Don't ruin it though. She just made a mistake, let's say, whatever. The Lord advocated mercy, not death. But that doesn't mean he said, he said, go and sin no more. When people have and there are people who will try to take advantage of Christians. They know you're a serious Christian, so they will play at this aspect of your faith. Forgiveness. They'll just demand it of you. But here's the thing. Mercy and forgiveness are not to be demanded. Nobody gets to demand mercy. Certainly not from God and certainly not from me. You know what I mean? I give it freely of my own free will because of God having mercy on me. You know what I mean? If I have any mercy to give, what mercy do I really have for anybody? You know what I mean? They want to be in my good graces. If that's the mercy you desire, well, then you'd better be right. As far as because there are people, like I said, people who are, it's like you have to sort of sort out what's more important. So that I should just avoid the responsibility of judging a situation and allow a person who is harmful to run amok in a family. Should I just forgive them and let them run amok and harm people? I mean, our unwillingness to condemn the guilty, does it extend, there's a child molester, we forgive him and we let him go back. We let him, we forget, we're not stupid, we're not stupid. We know, we shouldn't, maybe we'll give him, even if you forgive such a person, you give them some other responsibility. Like maybe you're the night janitor for the rest of your life. Sorry. It's an appropriate position for you, alone. Away from children, yes. It's not being judgmental, it's being realistic. And when people show over and over and over again they can't be trusted, if you trust them around people who are vulnerable, you are responsible. You can't just we cannot just abdicate our responsibility to judge righteous judgment because we're afraid of ourselves being condemned and judged as sinners. Because there is a balance there. You get up on your high horse, you start judging people, you better well be aware of the judgment that lies upon you. And you better well think long and hard about what that might mean for you in judging others. Yeah, it is definitely, he said, judge not. It is good advice. But it's not that you be not judged. Well, we all got to be judged. And if you want to, and anyone who puts himself in a position of authority or a teaching position, anytime you take up God's word, you are obligated into those positions and to the harsher judgment that comes along with it. That's why I said, be not many teachers, because they receive the greater condemnation. It is a pain. I mean, I think I want you to understand my own frustration and not being able to just cut. I wish I could just say one simple formula. Give you an algebraic equation when you plug in the person's sin and then their culpability or I don't know, whatever. And your opinion and all that. And then you come up with that gives you the right action to take. The only thing you have is the Holy Spirit. You go to him. That's when you're not sure. Even when you are sure, you go to him. Because that's even worse. I'm more afraid of my own certainty than I am of anything else. I'm sure. I mean, if I'm that sure, that means I could be so blind. The more certain I am about something, all that may just mean I have the most glaring blind spot one could imagine. Okay. It's just that is such a moment that when they say these things, it is so important. Don't speak evil. You're judging the law and you're a lawgiver. It's a very serious thing. But and the thing is, when Paul does condemn certain things, there is a bit of he's stepping into dangerous territory. Everyone who does. But if everyone's afraid to, then whence hath Paul says, set him that is least esteemed among you to judge these things. And he was not being true. He's saying some things are so easy. It doesn't require some grand intellect to sort out. Listen, careful of the evil speech, speaking evil, lying, assuming, jump into conclusions, all that stuff. Always keep in mind just exactly how ignorant you are, especially when it comes to other people, their lives, their situations, ways you could hurt them, ways you could damage their reputations, damage them in regards to, drive them out of a fellowship maybe that would benefit them. I don't know. Those that belong to the Lord are in the Lord's hands, but you harm yourself more than anything When we speak evil of our brethren, we harm ourselves. We bring ourselves into condemnation more than anything. So it's like, that's why it's such a testy thing, because you are like a lawgiver. You're Moses standing up there saying, this is, and even, like I said, this is the new thing. I have a pronouncement. This is not a matter of conscience. I'm telling you what the matter is. That's the, you become like a lawgiver. I try to avoid that. I can't say I always have, because it's like sometimes you receive things as though they were law, as though they were the law of Christ, as though they were written in stone. Opinions, ideas, the way things ought to be. Okay, so just by way of, I didn't want to close out the chapter while talking about that a little, and now let's look at the last couple of verses, and I figured about, if we're hitting the beginning of the chapter in the middle, that's all right. Sorry, I should have muted that. Okay, wait a second. I got it. I'm trying to figure out where the volume is supposed to be. I think right there. Okay, whatever. Sorry if that's too loud or different. All right. Oh, wait, that is kind of loud. It is more like that, huh? Okay. Well, whatever. That's gonna bug me, but okay. All right. So he had talked about this thing about, we're going to go to such a city, we're going to make profit. We talked about this. You should say, we will say, if the Lord will. And for me, I definitely take that approach, but I find myself anxious, not if the Lord will. It's like, whoa, wait a second. What if the Lord doesn't will? Then I don't want to do that. I don't even want to attempt it. I don't want to try it. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe the Lord wills that I try it and fail. I know. Here's the part, and it's frustrating sometimes, okay? I've tried things and failed at many of them. And I know everything that's happened in my life is God's will. And God's willing of me to fail over and over again sometimes is a bit much. As far as like I get a little bit, let's say, gun shy after that, and feeling like, okay, I don't want to make another mistake. I want to pick the path that is God's will. I mean, I want to make that. I don't want to go if the Lord's will. I want to know what the Lord's will is ahead of time, and then head down that path. But you know what? The Lord doesn't always reveal that to us. So, I have to merely, it is enough to understand that, people always want all kinds of things. Paul had this thorn in his flesh. He wanted it removed. And you know what? The Lord said, my grace is sufficient for you. And that's the same thing is true for me. It's like, oh, you want to know all things beforehand? You want to know what the proper path to take, the easy path to take, the one that is least likely to result in pain? Sorry. My grace is sufficient for you. Let it be sufficient for you to know that you will get through it. Let it be sufficient for you to know that all things work together for good for those that love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. God has called me, and if God has called me, I don't really need to know what his will is. I'll say, well, if the Lord wills, what I'm doing will work out. And if not, well, there'll be something else. And that's it. And that's all I can satisfy myself in. I can't satisfy myself in, I always know what God's will is, and therefore I do it. I wish I could. There are people, and like I said, people have gotten on me for saying, I don't know God's will. It's like, oh, you do. I'm sorry, you know God's will. Yes. He has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God. But do you think that's pretty broad, don't you think? I do. I've lived life in detail up till, I'm 48. I've lived a little bit of time, and I've seen life is a little more complicated. It's very simple it's very simple to understand that that's what God wants. But in each and every circumstance, how that all adds up to that is not actually always apparent to the observer. It's not always obvious. I don't think it is. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't look hard enough. It's not always obvious to me. But but we pray, we seek the Lord, and even if he does not show us, I know I'm going God's way, even if I try and fail. But me personally, I'd rather not put all that effort into the trying if I'd known that God would not allow my purposes to be fully realized in that direction. Like I'm going in a direction, I want my purposes to be realized. I put energy into it, I put effort into it, and it all comes to naught. And other than I walk away with patience, I walk away with, and some other, I get something out of it. I always get something out of everything. We should have a continual growth curve. You should never be stale and stagnant. We may be. I mean, I have been, but that's more of a past thing. It's like life really seems to accelerate for me, and I assume it will for you. As you get older, things seem shorter, and also, so all the things I have to do seem more compact and more on top of each other, and there's less time to do it in. I got less life left than I started with, and more work to do. I keep finding more work to do, and therefore everything gets even more filled up. And so, I know that, like I think my younger self would lose my mind in the level of stress sometimes that I come under. But that's good. I'm telling people that to encourage you to understand that as you live life in the Lord and you look to the Holy Spirit for guidance, He will inevitably strengthen you. And you may not even perceive it, because it's like, when I was young, like 13, I remember the first time I tried to bench press any significant weight, I don't know, 100 pounds or something like that. I couldn't get 100 pounds up, I'm pretty sure, at 13. Couldn't get it off my chest. And it was really hard, really hard. It wasn't just like, it felt heavy. Well, there are weights now that feel heavy, but they're not 100 pounds. They're a lot heavier. And things I do, like just for reps, for fitness rep level, just some warm-up, level exercise, is stuff that used to be like unthinkable. I'm warming up with weights that my 13-year-old self could not move. Yeah, like the 100 pounds is less than I warm up with. Of course, much less, And so, and I couldn't even lift it at one point. And that's how life is. Sometimes there are things we cannot lift. There are heavy loads that we don't even encounter. Or maybe we come up against them and fail. And that can be a road to where you discover that you can do it. Because if you'd failed that in the past and then you come to the similar situation, you see yourself now not making the same mistakes and being able to negotiate whatever the situation is. That's extremely encouraging. But now you rejoice in your boastings. All such they rejoice in boasting. This is what we're going to do. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I got this plan, that plan. I got plans to, I want to do the whole book of Isaiah. I want to do, I got all these other songs I'm going to publish, videos I'm going to make. I'm going to do that thing on hell. It's going to come. I have plans. I haven't put a time thing on them because I kind of know. But a lot of this is, he doesn't even have in mind stuff like that. Like we're going to go preach the gospel. I didn't even think he meant stuff like that. Like he said, buy and sell and get gain. He's talking about business. It's like business wise, I've never been particularly, I want to be good at it. I just don't have the love and passion necessary to really drive something like that, unfortunately. As far as, because I've been in business for myself my whole life, and the reason it's never been that big is because I'm just always more, it's always sort of like something I've used to support myself while I do ministry, which is my real passion. So, but to have a good, successful business, that has to be your passion. And it's funny to me that sometimes I wonder, I'm not as blessed in business. I'm blessed, but I'm not as blessed in that as I'd like to be. And when I've been blessed more, it's because I put more attention to it. I give it more love. I put more time into the kingdom of the world, and as far as obtaining money, whatever it is people pile up money for the future, for their retirement, for their death, for their posterity. Leaving your money to your posterity became good, but if they waste it all, that's your fault. It's your fault. You didn't really do anything good. I've never seen in the Bible once where it says it was good to leave a lot of money behind. I mean, I I don't know. Maybe I have a different perspective. Well, as one who consistently has watched, oh, whatever. Let me just say, I don't know. I don't look to inheritances. Like I don't really. Sometimes there are inheritances, right? And you get screwed out of them, or you inherit money. Well, that's a burden for you, or whatever. It is what it is. It's funny because it's not my money, so what do I care about? It's somebody else's money they left after they died. Because I'm set to catch the pile as they perish. To me, the desire for that is kind of perverse. Like as far as like to be thinking about it. I can't wait to the money. It's grotesque. Yeah, there's something grotesque here. It pleases me more for some other things to happen to it. Well, it's more amusing. I guess because I trust the Lord and I'm like, I'm in the Lord's hands. My inheritance is of the Lord. He's my inheritance. So I have everything. I don't need anything. I could use money in this world in different ways, like I said, but it's like, I'd like to have the problem of having more money. Too much money even. That would be an interesting problem to deal with. Oh, I would, I don't say it would be good for me, but I know there's part of me that would like to try, right? Everyone would like to try, I think, once. They think that, at least. I mean, there are some so virtuous among us, they go, no, I know better. And I kind of know better. I'm not quite that virtuous, though. I would not, I would never, someone writes a check to me, I've never not cashed that check. You know what I mean? That's just, because I need it. You know what I mean? But when you talk about a lot of money, what if it's so much money you don't need? It's a tough issue. As I said, if I knew what to do with money, I might start asking people for it. Other than to support myself and stuff, I don't really know what to do with it. I don't have a plan. And if I ever get one, I'll let you all know. Other than that, it's just let's live. If the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that. But now we rejoice in our boastings. Also, I've got big plans. That's evil because you're not taking into account the Lord. You should not. That's not a Christian way to approach the future. Because all that buying and selling and getting gain, it can be for a good purpose. We need to support ourselves. Making good money is great. I wish I had. I wish I had thought about. No one talked to me about career the way I needed to be talked to about career when I was young. They only looked at how intelligent I was, and they pointed me at like high-powered stuff, like a lawyer, politician. They were pointing me at like upper, and people saying, "Oh, he's got such language skills," and I have good personal skills, even though not by birth, but I learned them. I can be charming and stuff. So I could see the good fit, and I'm good at public speaking. I'm not afraid of that. But someone should have looked at, you got to look at a person, a child, and what do they like to do? What would you like doing? Because you're going to be doing it a lot to sustain your life. To do, on a regular basis, you have to find something that you like doing that can bring you the things you need to sustain your life and the life of your family. And so in that, you want to acquire some sort of skill or other, people are always like, oh, go to college. It's like, well, maybe, maybe go to some specialized training. I had a friend who went to learn to make cabinets. I always thought that was cool. And he became a cabinet maker. I think he does quite well. He's not rich, but he's middle class, which is all I aspire to. In fact, I don't consider. I just aspire to pay my bills. I don't have any middle class aspirations. But here's the point: is you can just work a decent job and you can be middle class, and there you go. You got more money than you know what to do with, possibly. Depending on where you live and the expenses you have, right? Because people can live week to week and still be making six-figure salaries. A lot of doctors are like that. People think doctors are rich. It's like, well, they can afford nice homes, but they got a lot of insurance to pay. They got, it's like, and oftentimes people, because of their ability to consume, they will have a lot of money and they will make a lot of money, but they're still living week to week because they're just spending thousands of dollars on things because they don't have a rope on their spending. The him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him is sin. Why does he throw that in there? Doesn't it seem kind of weird? It's like, well, I don't know, because it does seem a little out of place. Wars and I think it goes back to his overall theme where he's looking at. I mean, he's trying to create. James always feels like he's calling the church back to the basic principles of Christianity, the basic moral principles, because it's more than, because he wants people to understand. It's like faith is not just you think a set of facts. I believe there's one God. I believe in Jesus Christ. That is not faith. James wants to make very clear. And I don't think Paul ever taught anyone that was faith. He just did not. To me, it's like, I remember when I used to teach on my website, I still have the teachings are all up there. And a young person who was studying with me very intently picked up on things I was saying, took them very literally and applied them to his life, excluding some people from his life based on doctrinal differences, which is something that basically I was recommending. But meaning verbally, out of my mouth were coming words that said things to that effect. Though in my mind, I would consider tempering all that with some sort of, if someone had asked me the question directly, like, how do I deal with this in the real world? Because I'm just talking about in the abstract. In my mind, I'm just talking about it abstractly as a concept. Yeah, there is a point at which doctrinal differences, we sever our relationship with people. I mean, there are times when the fightings and wars among us come to such a point that we divide one from another. Sometimes we have no choice because people can be so disagreeable and wrong. And then what do? Just roll over and let evil have its way? As we see it, we see what they want as being the wrong thing, as being a bad thing, as maybe being not God's will. And they see what they're doing as being God's will. And we're coming at each other and we both think we're doing God's will. And that causes division. And one of us may be wrong. One of us, or both of us may be wrong. We both may lack humility. Maybe both of us have no patience. That's why the whole problem is existing, because we're both to blame. I don't know. Sometimes it's just one. Sometimes it's nobody. Sometimes there's just a difference that has nothing to do with right or wrong. It's just a matter of opinion. I want to go this way and take so-and-so. You want to go that way and take so-and-so. And I think of like Timothy. Paul was disputing with Barnabas. He came to a great disagreement with about the matter of Timothy. He wanted to take Timothy or something like that. And Barnabas ended up taking somebody else. And Paul, they split up, but not in the sense of with reviling each other, with rejecting each other as brethren, but they just went their separate ways. And it was a question of, what should we do? What direction should we go? It's an important thing to know what direction you're going. And people come to great differences about it. So we have these differences and stuff. And sometimes sometimes people knowingly do bad. And that is sin. To him it is sin. A lot of times people's evil speaking of other people come from some sort of accusation or assumption that they know what they're doing. That they know that they should be doing something else, but they're doing the wrong thing. They know they should be doing this good thing, but they're not doing it. That can apply to almost anything. Because the point is the knowledge is important. To know to do the good thing, the right thing, the positive thing, the thing that will benefit, the thing, and the good thing can be put that sin from among you. I mean, that is also a good thing. But we know sometimes what God wants, but we have a competing desire of what we want. 1 second here. I made it way too late. It was pointless. That was just stupid. I just couldn't wait. All right, whatever. When we know to do something is the right thing, is a good thing, but then we don't do it, that is sin to us. Other people may not notice. I mean, because doing good, it's not always, like when people fail to do good, you don't always notice. You don't always notice. Sometimes they've passed what they call Good Samaritan laws. They require people to do good. I don't know how they apply, but I mean, like things that you'd think would be like you see someone injured on the street. What do you call 911? I mean, of course. But some people are like, oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to go, better not. Just walk right by. Don't want to, Yeah, this is a Christian society. We have Good Samaritan laws. When they pass Good Samaritan laws, it is sort of like putting a Christian principle into the thing, but that's all right. Here's the funny thing is they try to separate church from state, but you think about all law is basically some sort of religious belief. I mean, we can have pragmatic reasons for them. We can't have murders. We can't have this, that, the other. Yeah, sure. But it's like some things are just too, you got to require people to do good. That's pragmatic too, I guess. I don't want to overstate the case. So, chapter 5. And I guess that verse, I don't want to spend too much time. It seems pretty clear-cut verse. But how it connects to the rest is a little unclear. But like I said, I think it has something to do with when you... it's not just about not doing wrong things, not doing offenses. It's about doing the right thing. You know what I mean? That sin is not just like when I do something wrong, like commit adultery. Sin is when I don't do something right, like love my brother. Sin is when I don't do something right, like help someone when they need help. That's also sin, especially if I knew it. I've had times when after a situation, I went by something, I'm like, oh, I should have done this, and I feel terrible. But the thing is, at the time, I didn't think that. If I thought it at the time, I would have just acted. Because when I think like that, I just do. I try to. I don't know. Have I ever thought I should help and then I don't? I don't remember. If I did, God forgive me. But I try to do when I think. And it's only when afterwards, I'm like, oh, I should have. There have been a couple of times in recent years where I wonder if I should have stopped for somebody. But with the prevalence of cell phones, a couple of times years ago I slowed down and people like wave their cell phone at me like, okay, I guess they're fine. I don't want to, because I can make people nervous with my presence. I don't look friendly. But, for the most part, those thoughts that come after, don't beat yourself up for that. If you've known it at the time, you probably would have done something. If at the time you see something you could do and you don't do it, yes, it is sin. We gotta pray to the Lord and say, Lord, make us brave. That's why I stopped wearing masks, because it's like, to me, that's the good thing to do. It's the hard thing to do. It's a lot easier to put a mask on. To keep insisting that this is all just way too much. Way too much. I was thinking about doing a video about masks, a new one, but like the idea of that they work. They work. They reduce the whole plague by like maybe, I don't know, transmission rates maybe by 1/10,000% or something. I mean, they do something. I know that. It's more than zero. Because the spittle they capture, that's every drop of spittle on the inside of your mask is a drop of spittle not on your friend's face. Oh, that's for sure. So, I mean, you can just count those up and come up with some sort of percentage, right? Anyway, so they kind of work. And they also contribute to that authoritarian atmosphere where love and have come to become very fond of, yes. Nothing like going out and feeling like you're living in an authoritarian dystopia. It's kind of like going to Disneyland, but it's a horror park, Theme is a little different. All right, go to now, you rich men. Go to now, you rich men. Weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted. Your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered. The rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Your gold is going to eat your flesh like fire. You have heaped treasure together for the last days. So, and you notice his particular focus on the rich is on those who have obtained their riches fraudulently. You've kept back the hire of the laborers. They kept back it used to be considered like evil not to pay people the day they worked. And if you think about it, why the heck should I give you my work on credit anyways? I've done that many times and I've regretted it. So many people don't pay you when you're a contractor. You get screwed so often. It's like, yeah, I mean, I seriously understand what he's talking about. Why should my labor be, why shouldn't I get paid first? It's fine. When my dad and I used to be in the scrap metal business, we used to always take 50% advances. We'd always ask for it. We'd always take them. 50% advance. I mean, the moment it gets delivered, half up front. I mean, it's there. It's yours. Well, we got to wait till you smelt it down. Well, we got to do the assay and all. Okay. Well, let's do an estimated assay based on the last 20 times, and then you'll give us 50% up front. And so when you go to work at a place, it was considered kind of fraud not to pay the people that day. That often they would be paid at the end of the day. They need to go eat. They need to go buy something. When you're living on subsistence wages and the way you're getting paid is enough for a day, people often don't have enough money to wait till the end of the week. Whatever. I mean, that still exists to this day. I remember having to wait 2 weeks to get paid. Boy, that was rough. The first paycheck, waiting for that. You're working for 2 weeks, spending money, driving, and you're not getting paid nothing. Not yet. You gotta have money to go to work. You always finance that first week yourself. First 2 weeks, maybe. Yeah, so it's I'm not saying that people don't pay. Okay, I get it. It's more customary to pay people weekly or bi-weekly. I like weekly. Bi-weekly is a little like, again, why do you get my labor on credit? Why? I mean, I know they tend to pay, but still, it's like, I don't know why. Why don't I get paid right away? I never understood that. Oh, we got to delay. Because we got to make money. Well, I don't care. Why should I care? Why should the worker care? And that's because they have all the cards in their hand. You want a job? You want a job? Not only are you going to take this pay structure the way I want to give it to you, you also take this shot that I want you to take. Because I want you to bring your diseased, filthy carcass into my place of employment. Absolutely. I don't know. The world we're living in right now is really pissing me off. All these would-be tyrants and are quite cowards. And we have a nation of cowards. To me, like, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth not is a friggin' coward. Not just he is a coward. A craven coward. Now I find out what the damn it. People are just getting this shot, and it's like, you know what? Whatever. I won't do it. I'll just hold out. It's coming down. It's all coming down. Just hang on, folks. There's lots of other jobs we can do for a while. Like I said, 2 weeks to slow the spread. They said, stop doing everything for 2 weeks in the land. Well, if we would do that with a general strike Over COVID? I mean, everybody stopped doing everything, huh? Especially something that hurts the elites. I don't know. It could be over very fast. I definitely say, they cannot fill all the vacancies. And then make them try. I wish I wish I had a job to walk out on. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a job. I got a business. That's why I don't like jobs, because they get you. You get dependent on that job. You get to that weekly check, Just go there and do your thing. You're comfortable. You know what you're doing, It's very seductively comforting to have a job. There were many times I've wanted it. I've taken jobs too, of course. I've had jobs. Plenty of jobs. And we've done a lot of different little things. Your gold and silver is cankered. These are all metaphors, right? That's a metaphor. Your gold and silver is cankered. Is like something canker would be the simile version. It is cankered. It's got cancer. I wonder what a canker is. What is that in Greek, actually? So let's just move this up to, because I don't feel like bringing up the whole thing. There we go. Sorry if that's... Oh, we need chapter 5. So, cankered. I have canker sores occasionally in my mouth. I've only was told that's what they're called. I actually have no real knowledge of what a canker is, or if that's true, or whatever. Your riches are corrupted. The word is sepo. That's interesting. Sepo is corrupted. Sounds a lot like septic. Probably is. Garments. I find garments moth-eaten. Huh. Sepo. Okay. Moth-eaten is similar. Setobrotos, whatever. Setobrotos or whatever. Moth-eaten, literally. Cankered. Rusted. That's not a good translation. Boy, that was poor. I'm sorry. I should have just brought you guys all along, huh? I will show you the definition on the full screen here. Here we go. Gold and silver is not always pure. Very frequently, gold and silver is, especially in money, is not pure gold silver. They would often very much add so much base metal to their silver that it was no longer really much silver in there at all. The Romans did this in particular. And gold, too. For example, we have gold coins like they had the Sacagawea dollars. You may remember the ones with the native-headed Sacagawea. And then we had there's Washington-headed gold dollars. But they're just golden dollars. They're not made of gold. I don't think there's even one tiny percent of gold in there. There may be a gold atom somehow lost somehow in the because such things can happen, but not likely. Not likely, I suppose. So gold does not normally rust, but even laying that aside, because I know James knows this, gold is not supposed to rust. That's the whole point of gold. That's why we consider it so valuable. So he would know this. He's not saying it. So I don't. But he could be referring to the dilution of the currency with base metal. I don't think he is, though. I think what he's saying is that even that which we think of as incorruptible in the world is in fact corruptible. It is rusted. And it's interesting that the rust of them, the rust of your gold and silver, they are a witness against you. What is the rust? So if he's thinking in a metaphorical sense, does he have an idea of what the rust of the gold and silver is? What is the rust? What would be the answer of it? And personally, I think it's like it's basically either. Well, I have a couple ideas. One, when things get rusty, it's like something is being created from it, or it's coming apart, and you're getting some off of it, right? And so, and why do things go rusty often? Because, well, you leave something out in the elements. You leave it, especially something iron. You leave it unattended to. You don't polish it. Like, silver needs to be polished, or it will tarnish. So if you don't give attention to it, it tarnishes, it rusts. I think this goes back to what I was saying, perhaps, about just piling up money, letting it just sit there, and and rust, so to speak. Go to rust, meaning sitting there useless. Now, oftentimes people have their money invested, which is not having your money sit there useless. Okay, granted, it is doing something, especially if you invest well. But a lot of people, I had a friend who was into investing. I know he listens sometimes, so but it's like, they'll say like, oh, hey, you know what? Here's the thing. You're better off taking your money and putting it in an index fund. If you just put it in an index fund of like the top 100 stocks or whatever, you would do better over the course of 10 years than you would with most like brokers who are like picking and choosing stocks. And so you're not, and what happens is you're taking that money, you're giving it to someone to make use of it, right? Basically, that's the idea. You're investing in their business. Well, then it's important for you to know what kind of businesses are you investing in. I'm kind of like, I'm like, okay, is my cell phone carrier an appropriate person to even be a carrier with? Is my, should I even do business with them? Because now I'm looking at cancel culture, and I know there are a lot of people who aren't going to want to do business with me in the future as an outspoken Christian, especially one who's so, I wouldn't say old-fashioned, but let's say extreme. Because on that level, there is a certain extremity to me without being, you can't call me a fundamentalist, you can't call me a old-fashioned or traditional, but extreme is all right because I'm some sort of extremist, right? Yeah, I am an extremist. Extreme, but actually, as you know, I advocate heavily for moderation. Extreme moderation. Extreme moderation. Yes, that's what we believe in here. Extreme wisdom, extreme thought. Think about these things, meditate upon them. Extreme commitment to the Lord. Yeah, I'm into extremism. I definitely think so. Now, not into that whole physical violence thing. No, though I do like physical violence. I don't participate in it for religious or political purposes. It's merely for sport. I love the sport of violence. Okay, so it could be like, yeah, you save up your money, and then, so then like the idea is, okay, I'm investing, but what am I investing in? In these corporations that are giving money to Black Lives Don't Matter, or that support all kinds of causes. LGBTQ Alliance, they're giving money to, and they're giving money to all. And your stock, you're funding it with your index fund, but you don't even know it because you don't know what companies are in that index necessarily, and you haven't invested in such a way to think about what is my money doing. You know what I mean? So don't let your money rust through inattention and start corrupting things and be an agent of corruption in the world. Think about your stuff. It's not wrong to put your money to use by giving it to people who know what to do with it and to be good and that's not wrong. All right? I want to make that clear. But you should, as a Christian, you should do it as mindfully as you do everything else. You should take some thought in it. Now, if you don't know, you don't know. But now I've said it, I burdened you, to think about it. Anyways, think about it. Another way it could rust is, what was it? I thought on one hand through Well, like the interest, like the production it makes, like in the idea that rust creates more stuff though less value. You know what I mean? I don't like that analogy. It's rusted. It is a picture of corruption. You know what I mean? It's like you have this rusty coin. It's not shiny. It's not pretty. It's rusty. And what did you do with this coin? Well, all the value that was in it, it went into prostitution, or it went into, and I mean that I invested in or I invested in some other company that promotes pornography or something like that. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? And so my money went into pornography. And so now your money is not, you're not bringing, when you go to God's altar, so to speak, like Paul talked about, you're not bringing silver and gold. You're bringing rusty fake coins that no longer have any value in them because they've been so denatured of their valuable precious metals that they've become corrupted and rusty. I don't know. There's a lot, you can see he has sort of an analogy in mind here, but he's not your garments are moth-eaten. The righteousness, to take the analogy of righteousness, your righteousness has become, through lack of attention, it has, because moth-eaten, as far as I could tell, because I never had anything eaten by moths, but I've seen it in movies. And what is it always? How do they show moth eaten? It's always like some forgotten closet. There's some old garment in there, and the moths have gotten to it. But because of lack of attention, because the moth, if you I wear this shirt every week, moths will never get to it. I'll wear it out. But maybe I have a chest somewhere with some old school jerseys or something. I don't, but let's say you do. And a lot of times I remember my mom had an old chest and it smelled funny, and that was mothballs. It's because in case they got in there, their larva gets in there and eats away at your garments. The garments are all kind of packed away. That's how the moth eats, is when you store up clothing and you hide it away somewhere. You know what I mean? Having food and raiment, let's be content, sure, but we need, different wardrobes for every season, and we need new ones every year, and let's save the old ones. A lot of people donate their old clothes, which is a good idea. I donate my old clothes and then I go buy new ones from the donated place. I buy and sell donated clothes. I don't sell them, I give them away. That's the point, is like the garments are kind of, there's a stagnation and a lack of use implied also. And that's what I think also, because the idea of the riches are piled up for no good use. Like I said, there is a good use to which you can put your riches, in which you can be wealthy and prosperous in the Lord and blessed of God, like Job, giving to what the Lord is due, and not just enriching yourself for no purpose, but being mindful and being a good steward of what God's given you. That's what God calls us to in terms of how we deal with our wealth if we have it. Well, some people, they just heap it to themselves, and he's saying, it's just going rusty on you, man. It's going rusty, and your garments are moth-eaten, and the rust is going to be like a witness. It's going to, look at it's rusty! And then that rust, you know what that is? That's that rust. When that God holds aloft, here are my works, rusty coins, and God holds it aloft. It's like when he said to the man not having on a wedding garment. Or no, I like it better, the talents, the parable of the talents. What'd you do with the talents? And he brings them out and they're all rusty. What, they just been sitting in the ground? Yeah, I was piling up talents. Now in that parable, the point was to make a profit, right? So any old prophet would do in the parable. When it comes to the Lord, any old prophet does not do. It is not due for you just to get richer. It will not do. Any old the parable of the talent was about making profits, but it's a parable. You have to kind of go for it. Money doesn't just, some people money falls into laps because of their relations and stuff, but for most of us, we don't just get rich quick. We have to work if we want to get anything in this world. If we want to get any level of success, even just to be comfortable, as most people like, comfortable, going on vacation twice a year, having the home you desire, the car you desire, with as few miles on it as you like, all those things our hearts desire. We want to have all those things. You got to be careful. A lot of that stuff is not pleasing to God. We can get by with a little bit more modest So we got to be watchful of that. Be mindful. Hey, and it's just advice. I'm telling you, you judge yourself. I don't judge people because like I said, I know people have their own struggles. It's like you can live frugally week to week, and you can live not quite so frugally week to week. It doesn't mean that you're like a rich person who just doesn't know how to manage their money. Which to me it kind of feels like looking at someone, they're making twice as much money as I am, but they're still struggling. I mean, I'm like, why don't you just downsize your life like me, and then if I was making money like you were, I'd feel rich. If I made 6 figures, I would definitely be rich. Not that I ever pulled 6. I got close once. A couple of years where I got close. Never pulled 6, but I would feel very rich. Because that would easily be more than 3 times what I usually pull in. But that's the thing. You learn to do with less. You have less worry about it. I don't have to worry about riches. I'm not worried about it. I wish I could, God knows I would not mind having the problem, but he also knows I probably would not necessarily equip myself super well if I was wealthy. In the little that God's given me, I've never shown myself particularly adept or very, what do I want to say? Worthy of more. I don't think so. I don't think I'm worthy of more on that front. I try to make, with the things God gives me, I try to do my best for his kingdom. And it's like that one thing, I don't know where my talent is. And so God has never been particular about throwing a lot of that at me. He throws me all the things that I do love, though. I do love the inspiration he gives me and all those things. I love the word he gives me. I love all the wonderful inspired things that he shows me. That is treasure to me. And I'm glad to have to deal with, what do I do with all this? That's just fine. So we get to verse 4. All right. We'll have to pick it up at verse 5 because I wanted to talk about that. And we will talk about that starting tomorrow. So we'll begin at James 5:5 tomorrow. We're going to have at least 2 more studies, I think, before we're done. So thank you for joining me in this study. I look forward to being back again tomorrow to continue in James. Oh, this is Isaiah 59. I should have mentioned it at the beginning, but here it is at the end.
We wait for the light, but behold, obscurity for brightness, but we walk in darkness. We grope for the wall like the blind, and we grope as if we had no eyes. We stumble at noonday as in the night. We are in desolate places as dead men. We roar all like bears and mourn so like doves. We look for judgments, but there is none for salvation. But it is far off from us, for our transgressions are multiplied before thee, and our sins testify against us, for our transgressions are with us.